Drake has now flopped twice. I had to bring Challz back outside, gang, because this time it's absolutely special. I don't know if you know what's going on. Some of you are new to this channel and you may not understand the dynamic that goes on around here. So I do videos and I talk about industry things, but I'm more hip-hop related than industry, gang. And I don't get in my industry bag too often. But what's going on right now, I did a live stream last night, and the live stream was titled, "They Think I'm a Hater." Well, gang, based on that live stream and a lot of the responses I got on Twitter and YouTube and other places, a lot of people say, well, Challz, you are a hater. You hate people with a difference of opinion. You're always a staunch critic, and your criticism is not steeped in a place of wanting to better the artist that you or the public influencers that you criticize, right? There was a lot of response, gang, and they didn't hear me, gang. I know a lot of you know that I'm not a hater. A lot of you put your support in the comments, but right now I want to focus on those who 100% commented that, Challz, you are a hater, and you never talk about when Drake is doing well. So what I'm going to do right here, gang, and I want to put a special icing on the cake, because right after that, I noticed that my friend Jay Roebuck, once again, we have a special relationship. And I don't know if you know who Jay Roebuck is, but he is the Drake, the current Drake mouthpiece, right? And he went on my Twitter post, which I had just noticed last night, and he had said, because I told you I don't even write Drake's name too much anymore on Twitter. I could just write a random quote. They'll know who it is and they'll come running, right? So I put up a post. This one actually was about Drake, and it was about how, to the effect that the album is tumbling, right? So Jay Roebuck goes under that post and goes, "I haven't heard you speak on week 3 at number 1. I must have missed that coverage." So I said, you don't really want me to talk about Drake going number 1 for a 3rd week in a row, because then I will have to speak about it tumbling, gang. So here we are. I just got hit with a whole bunch of "you are a hater" posts. And then I got hit with the "you're not speaking on Drake when he's number 1. Okay, so here we go. This is what I do. And just like they say, my guy Ice Cube, right? When he made a record, I'm on some no Vaseline energy, gang. I'm going to be on some, this is my get back. This is my get back song right here. I'm coming with that energy, gang, and right? And in the immortal words of Ice Cube, the bigger the cap, the bigger the peeling. Who gives a fuck about a punk-ass villain? Drake is on his villain arc, but I'm here to cool all that shit off, gang. And what we're going to do, I am going to discuss Drake being number 1 for a 3rd week in a row. But I'm going to discuss something they don't want to talk about, them other 2 flops. I'm going to talk about how bad Hibbity Bibbity is doing and how bad Maid of Honor is doing. Because, gang, they want to brag when they up. They real happy. They got big cheeseburger smiles, gang. They got big welfare cheese smiles, gang. They are happy. It's the 1st of the month. The checks are in. They are on some get back there in my comments, tearing my ass up about, yeah, you was hating. You thought Iceman was going to do 150. You said that Drake was going to flop. He's going to fail. Well, gang, let me be the first to tell you niggas he did flop. He did fail. He got 2 albums that's tumbling awful. They're doing bad, and they don't want to talk about him. The only time they talked about it was when he broke his historic record. He went 1, 2, and 3. Well, gang, them last 2 albums that he dropped that only did 114 and 110, they came out the gate swinging, gang. Them things are tumbling fast, and they don't want to talk about it. They bragged on him in week 1. Right? We not letting you, nah, you gonna follow through. We gonna talk about the other 2 albums, because if he had dropped them shits and they all went fucking through the roof, we wouldn't hear the end of it. But they didn't. They tumbling back, gang, and we gonna discuss them because they don't want to talk about it. All right, Jay Roebuck will never have this conversation, but I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. Right? Remember that Kanye West song with Consequence? The good, the bad, the ugly. We're gonna talk about this. So we're gonna start off with Iceman. It is for you, Jay. It receives a monstrous 3rd week sales prediction. Okay, this is by Alexander Cole for hotnewhiphop.com. And for all the motherfuckers that's saying, Challz, you a hater, well, I'm giving you a good story right here, okay? It's a feel-good story. Make your belly warm. Make your nipples feel good, gang. I'm going to give you a good story, you Drake fans. And then we're going to get to the nitty-gritty of them two flops that y'all don't want to talk about. Oh, yeah, they doing bad, gang. These are the worst two albums of this guy's career, and they on his record, gang. Let's just be honest. He tried to get slick and drop 3 albums. 2 of them shits crashing and burning. And those 2 albums that he tried to fulfill his contract. You don't know what you talk about, Challz. He dropped all 3 so you can get out of the contract. What contract? The one you said he been fulfilled 3 years ago? Okay, let me get here, though. We're going to get there, gang. Challz in the car is here today. Okay? That guy, okay? The guy that Poetic Flacco tried to put on his platform and try to clown him. That guy's back. Hi, it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. Let's go, man. So Drake's Iceman is going into his 3rd week on the charts. And for now, it's showing no signs of slowing down, gang, because nobody remembers the other 2. They keep going back to Iceman, the one that they spent $16 million of promotion on, the one that they got 350 tons of ice and dropped them in the middle of Toronto. They started licking them and picking at it. That one that they spent all that money putting projectors, 45 projectors at $200,000 a piece to turn the CN Tower blue. Yeah, that album is popping, right? Yeah, it's popping. Okay, let's go. And Kendrick was still beating that thing. Kendrick got 12 tracks. That got 18. And Kendrick G and X, I matched him up for a lot of that shit. He was still beating them, and he wasn't even trying. Kendrick dropped the album 2 years ago, and it's still knocking the same numbers as that. Give or take, gang. Give or take. A lot of them stats, Kendrick did the same thing. They bragging about Drake going, he did a billion streams. Ooh, whoop-de-doo, right? Your boy A$AP Rocky did it 2 days earlier than him. He got his billion streams 2 days quicker than Drake. Okay, just so you know who you dealing with, okay? But let's keep it popping. Let's keep it pushing, okay? Drake Iceman is going into his 3rd week on the charts, and for now, it is showing no signs of slowing down. Drake's Iceman is easily the most anticipated album going into the year. One could even make the argument that it is the most anticipated album regardless of genre. Gang, I don't know what Lucian Grange and them did, but they made sure almost nothing was out right now, gang. I know there's a little bit of comp, but there ain't nothing to knock this thing off the charts. Gang, I don't know if you guys remember. I might even do a video on this. Do you guys know that when Kendrick dropped the same... What people don't talk about this enough. When Kendrick dropped, Taylor Swift dropped the 2nd week. All of that time that Drake was telling Dot he wouldn't drop because Taylor Swift was going to drop. Well, Dot dropped an album right with Taylor Swift. You know what happened? Dot went #1 in week 1. Week 2, Taylor Swift came out, took the #1. The very next week, Dot took it back and kept it. Gang, do you understand what's going on? They knew that Taylor Swift was going to get #1 in the week she dropped, but after that, Dot took it back. I don't know if you guys know, he went up against Taylor Swift, the Swifties, gang. Okay? So, he did it. He did a lot of shit that he don't get credit for, but let's keep talking. Let's keep talking about the boy, okay? With that being said, it should come as no surprise that the album has been a sales darling. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 with 465,000 first week sales. Subsequently, it remained at #1 with 215,000 units in its 2nd week. Kudos. You guys should be happy over there, okay? The guy took 2 years. He promoted this shit since which one? What did I miss? This, that, and the third. He was talking about this shit since 100 gigs, okay? It's documented. August in 2024, they was calling this thing Iceman, okay? So it's been a long time coming, and stop comparing this guy to Michael Jackson. Let me continue. Going into the 3rd week, there has been some curiosity over whether or not Drake would be able to sustain the success. With Janice STFU, who Joe Budden, they think that that's Joe Budden. Janice is supposed to be Joe Budden because he picked that as his quote-unquote white woman Karen name. So they think Janice is Joe Budden. I think Drake is petty enough to call his nigga Janice, okay? Let me continue. Sustaining multiple weeks as the #1 song, it has felt as though Iceman will see very little fall off. You gotta remember this. Hot New Hip Hop is very pro Drake, gang. You just gotta accept it. The article gonna sound really good, nice and shiny. So just bear with me, gang. That was confirmed by Kirkle on Tuesday. They reported that Iceman is projected to be the #1 album for the 3rd straight week. There's no Taylor Swift coming down the pipeline, gang. I don't think this shit could survive a Taylor Swift, gang. I'm just gonna be honest. Let me continue though. Meanwhile, it will likely sell upwards of 174,000 units, okay? This is a massive success for Drake. Just a few months ago, some doubted whether the artist could remain one of the world's top stars. The battle with Kendrick Lamar led to some detractors, but Drake has proven them wrong, did he? This thing tumbling like 50% the next day. Gang, it's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. But I told you, this is a pro Drake article, and they're gonna make it sound real funky. Funky fresh. Let me continue. Albums like Hibbity and Maid of Honor have seen considerable declines over the past week. These albums contain R&B and club-inspired instrumentals. His forte, that's what he's known for. He dropped 2 albums, that's what he's known for, and them things are doing goony-goo-goo numbers. But let's continue. Not to mention club-inspired instrumentals. Not to mention the main attraction is always going to be Iceman. With that in mind, it should come as no surprise that the other 2 albums in the 3-pack are experiencing a bit of decline. At the end of the day, one can make the argument that the triple release was more for shock factor than anything else. Regardless, it is clear that Drake accomplished his goal. Okay, so gang, let's talk about it. Drake threw a smoke screen. He threw out this massive thing. Oh, Drake this is what they meant when they said when Drake drops, he gonna change the word. It's gonna be a wave. They meant that wave literally. Maul and these other guys are like, there's going to be a tidal wave when Drake drops on May 15th. And they weren't kidding. The dude dropped 43 songs in one night, 18 music videos the next day. Gang, this thing was crazy. It was a tidal wave. You couldn't consume it all. Now they decided we got to focus this thing on one song, and they decided it was Janice STFU. Okay, is going to radio, this, that, and the third. And when I looked it up, K-Dot had way more records popping. Gang, this guy had 43 records. Really one is popping, gang. I'm just going to be honest with you. But they don't want to talk about that, right? My guy Jay want to get in my comments and talk about being #1 for 3 weeks. You barely #1, but we're going to keep talking, right? And they're going to say, how is he barely #1? You barely #1 because ain't really no competition for you, okay? First things first, all right? But let's clap it up. Clap for him. Clap for him. You're #1, 3 weeks. First time since what's the first time since Kendrick did it? Nobody else did it since Kendrick, okay? But this is where we are, and this is who he's competing against. That's why Iceman took so long. They had to put everything, or they had to line up all the ducks in a row, get all the right people saying all the right things. Jim Jones, Lil Baby, The Game, all these people coming out in defense of him, and they had to let that storm weather. They couldn't drop it last year like they really wanted to, so they waited another year. They put the shit out in May of 2026 of all things, gang. That's around the time the battle started, gang. In 2024, okay, but let's stay focused. Now, for the 2 flops, right? This is what it's going to be. They don't want to hear about these 2 records, but they exist, gang. I need you to understand. You have dropped 2 records that did less than the clips, both of them. Nah. We talking about this because they want to make it. They want to brag on those 2 records when they do well. Right? When those 2 records doing well, you can't shut them up. Hibbity Bibbity and Maid of Honor are 2 and 3. It's the first time in history they was bragging, right? They was bragging, right? So now they quiet about the 2 records. Now they don't exist. Oh, yes, they do. They still in the books. And we're going to talk about that, right? So let's have this conversation. Okay, I gave you your kudos for being #1, this, that, and the third. Now let's talk about them 2 flops you dragging along. Following their historic debut alongside the flagship Iceman, both Hibbity Bibbity, right? I call it Hibbity Bibbity. It's Hibbity, right? I think it's called Habibity, right? Habibity. And Maid of Honor experienced sharp, significant declines in their second charting frame, okay? While their initial release allowed Drake to become the first artist in history to hold #1, #2, and #3 slots in Billboard 200 simultaneously, the data shows that the general public rapidly shifted attention away from the B-side projects back onto Iceman, okay? Which means he didn't need them. He threw them out, didn't need them. They were filler. People not liking them, not feeling, they're not jacking it, which we already knew on the first night it came out. Let me continue. The exact commercial declines for both albums over the last week include the following metrics. #1, Habibity, right? Or AKA Hibbity Bibbity, the R&B album. The Billboard drop. Since its historic #2 debut, it has dropped down to #7. It has failed by 53% week after week. So every single week it drops another 53%. People are not jacking this thing whatsoever. The unit adjustment adjusted down from 114 opening units to 53,000 equivalent units. That means that they stopped. Every week it went down, and that's what it ended up at, right? Maid of Honor, the feature-heavy album. The Billboard drop. It slipped from its historic number 3 debut down to number 8. So those things are 7 and 8 respectively now, right? The volume decline has suffered a steeper 62% week-over-week drop, gang. 62% every week that thing drops more and more. People do not want to hear that shit at all. That is the one, in case you don't know, that is the album with Sexy Red. Okay? That album, if I'm not mistaken, you could correct me and say, Challz, it's not you. Don't know talk about what they like to nitpick. But I think Maid of Honor has his beautiful mom on the cover and Sexy Red on some shake that ass, this, that, and the third, okay? So let me continue. Why the companion albums faced harder declines. Okay, tell me, talk to me. Music data analysts note that a 43-track triple album dump creates severe internal listener fragmentation. Somebody should have told him that before he snuck off and dropped these albums. You heard Gordo. Gordo said he heard that it was 2 albums, didn't know it was 3. Gordo is his man, 50 grand in his camp. He didn't even tell Gordo he was dropping the 3rd album. Okay? This is according to Gordo. I'm not making this shit up. Gordo said this. Didn't know about it. Heard it when you heard it. Okay? So let me continue. During launch week, fans split their listening time to consume all 3 records at once. By week 2 and headed into week 3, casual listeners stopped playing the niche sub-projects, Hibbity Bibbity, Slow Burning R&B, and Maid of Honor's dance rap tracks, and folded their repeating streams entirely back to the main Iceman playlist. And let's not pretend, gang. Let's not pretend this wasn't mandated by the OVO higher-ups, too. They realized those 2 albums, it's like when you have a rocket. When the rocket enters back into the atmosphere, it has to drop the fuel tanks, and it just drops stuff off of it. When it goes up, it drops stuff. When it goes down, it drops stuff. So when you start to feel you got too much weight, those 2 albums are dragging the Iceman. Iceman would struggle if they didn't focus it on Iceman. Okay, you can have all 3 of them drop if they try to get people to listen to all 3 albums at once. Iceman would have suffered. They mandated. Let's just be honest. I'm just telling you. I know how this shit works. You know how the Zoom call works in the Twitter Spaces. They started telling people just listen to Janice and stick to Iceman. Okay, so that's what happened. That's why the other 2s dropped even worse, because they needed to cut their losses on those and focus on Iceman, and they told their fans accordingly. Let me continue. Additionally, because Drake record label focused on its heavy corporate radio promotional budget, they focused its heavy corporate radio promotional budget strictly on the flagship Iceman single, Janice, is what I just told you. Neither companion project benefited from a massive passive airplay loops needed to slow down streaming decay, which means there ain't no records on neither one of them. Oh yeah, the villain does get F with no Vaseline. Ain't no records on neither one of them. Okay, and they figured that out rather quickly. They thought the people was going to gravitate. I know plenty of people who didn't have nothing. They didn't want nothing to do. I know people that was like, oh, the Iceman thing is good. I'd be like, did you hear the other 2? No, don't want to. Will never, don't care. Right? Most people didn't even listen to him at all. Even the girlies that they keep talking about. Girls, like, the girlies wasn't even going to them 2 albums. I'm just keeping it a buck with you. And I heard a couple girlies saying they didn't like the shit. But let me just keep this pushing. Why the companion? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to, if you want to look deeper. So listen, what I started to do was I started to think about the numbers of plays, because what happened, right? What people don't realize is Drake got a little push with this equivalent unit thing, right? And with the equivalent unit thing, I was like, you know what? I need to deep dive a little bit and explain a little more about that so people would know what's going on. Get in my industry back a little bit, because the equivalent unit thing was changed. It was changed in January 2026. And that means this album, this Iceman rollout, had less of an uphill battle than Kendrick. I just need you guys to understand what's going on. This is stuff they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the sheer number of songs is what's pushing this thing. Kendrick had 12, Drake had 18. So they don't want to tell you about that, but I'm going to tell you right now. This equivalent unit stuff, it all matches up to why this thing is doing so well and it's passing Kendrick and breaking all these records. You got to understand that they kind of changed the game after Kendrick had dropped. But let me read this, right? When Billboard tracking says, all right, let me start here. When Billboard tracking data says an album adjusted down from, let me make sure it's still going, an album adjusted down from 110 to 42,000 equivalent units, it means the project experienced a sharp drop in overall consumption between week 1 and week 2, okay? To understand exactly what those numbers represent, you have to break down the industry measures modern music consumption. 1, what is an equivalent unit? Because most people stream music today instead of buying physical CDs or vinyl, Billboard created album equivalent units. This formula converts individual song streams into digital track purchases into the mathematical equivalent of one full album sale. Under current chart rules, one album is equal to one pure purchase buying a full digital album download. That's one album unit sold. Or 1,000 premium streams, which is 1,000 plays from paid users like Apple Music or Spotify Premium. Or 2,500 plays from an ad-supported accounts like Spotify Free or YouTube. So in other words, if they buy the album, that counts as a sale. If you get 1,000 premium streams, that counts as a sale. If you get 2,500 free streams, that counts as a sale. So that's how one sale comes based on this thing. All right. So what had happened was they changed it to 1,000 because it used to be more. And when Kendrick dropped his album, it was more to make an equivalent unit sale. Okay. So let me explain to you what happened. Why Drake's rise to the top, his meteoric rise, was a little bit easier, right? Let me get there. Billboard implemented the rule change, lowering premium streams to 1,000 plays, right? Because it used to be 1,500. This is why Kendrick had a harder battle with less tracks to play with. When you got more tracks, you got more spins. It's just that simple, right? But let me continue. Billboard implemented the rule change, lowering premium streams to 1,000 plays per album on January 6, 2026. The evolution of Billboard streaming to sales ratios did not jump directly from 115 to 1,000. It moved a few distinct phases, right? So Kendrick had it when it apparently was 1,250. And then it went down to 1,000 when Drake came in. That adds up, gang. It adds up really. When you're talking millions, that's way quicker time to get to a unit sold, okay? But let me read this. The 1,500 baseline era, which was in 2014, when Billboard first introduced streaming equivalent albums, SEA, to the Billboard 200 in December 2014, it treated all streaming tiers equally, no matter if a play came from a paid Spotify Premium account, a free Spotify Premium account, or a video loop. Billboard strictly required 1,500 song streams to equal one pure album sale, and that was it. That was across the board. So, in 2018, they changed it. A lot of people was complaining or whatever the case may be, or they was realizing they was losing money, whatever they was doing, or it was too easy, whatever. Let me read this. The 1250 split tier era started in July 2018. As subscription services generated drastically higher revenue than ad-supported ones, Billboard split streaming into tiered weights in July 2018. Paid and premium streams were lowered from 1,500 down to 1,250 streams per album unit. And the free and ad-supported streams were raised from 1,500 to 3,750 per album unit. So you had to get more free ones and less of the paid premium ones, okay? That made it more fair. You got people jumping on, making free accounts and just running wild with it. It is what it is. So then the current 1,000 stream era, this is what we just got in January 2026, which in essence helped Iceman to get where it is. Let's read it. To better reflect massive surges in global streaming revenue, Billboard adjusted the formula again. This update reduced the number of plays required across the board by narrowing the premium to free value ratio from 1 1/3 to 1 2 1/5. Okay. Paid premium streams dropped from 1,250 down to 1,000 streams. That's a massive difference when you're talking millions. That is much quicker to get to an album sold than someone just 1 week before, the year before, all those years before that. It was easier now, starting January, for anything coming forward to get an album sale to count. Okay. And the free ad-supported streams dropped from 3,750, which Kendrick had to contend with, and everybody else, Bad Bunny and everybody else, down to 2,500 streams. So the 2,500 streams went backwards, right? It went backwards, and now you can get there easier with the free or ad-supported platforms. This 2026 adjustment sparked a massive music industry shakeup, arguing that the formula still unfairly undervalued non-paying music fans. YouTube entirely pulled its U.S. streaming data from Billboard, which is massive. That's a big deal too. Okay, so now I hope you understand a little bit better. And a lot of these, it's a lot of factors as to why GNX, and it still overperformed, right? GNX overperformed with 12 tracks. And you got to understand, he was tracking the same as this thing, pretty damn close in a lot of categories. And in some of them, it beat it. But you got to think they two different artists with two different goals. Okay, first things first. Drake wants to get all these streams down to 30. He want to be known as the king of rap with the streams down to 30. They had two different goals in mind, and Kendrick still was eating crazy food off this. But 18 songs versus 12 songs is a big difference when you start to count numbers. And then you lower it down to 1,000 paid streams, this, that, equivalent units, and this, that, and the third. Kendrick outsold him in physicals, which says a lot. There's a lot going on with it. But end of the day, we just gonna acknowledge that we're gonna accept. We don't really care about these numbers, but we should know what's going on. When they keep throwing these numbers in your face, well, he got a lot of bumps. He got a lot of help, and they're doing a lot of tricks. 43 tracks out there. That's a lot of things shaking and moving. That's a lot of people eyes going toward him, and it focuses back right to Iceman. So they did a lot of smart industry things to prop this album up, to get it where they wanted it to be, and to make sure that album was successful. They even you don't hear PG Lang and TDE doing mandates to do this and that and the third, but you see OVO all the time say, yo, do this, do that, stream that record, da-da-da. They do a lot of things differently over there because the numbers really matter, okay? And I'm going to leave it at this, man. Listen, those two albums, they do exist. They are flops for Drake. Those are terrible. And they don't ever want to talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it. And I guarantee you, in my comments, they're going to be bitching about, I'm just a hater and I just want to see the boy fail. Somebody wrote on my thing last night. He said, you most certainly are a hater because you were rooting for Drake's album to tumble and fall down. I said, I never, gang, don't ever put that on me. I'm not rooting for nobody's shit to fail, my G. I don't go around rooting for shit. I tell you what my opinion is, and I tell you what the facts are, and after it happens, I tell you I was right or wrong. But I don't go around hoping nobody fail, just so you niggas know. All right? Listen, man, I'm going to leave it at that, man. Let me know what you think in the comments. Head on over to black-yeti.com. Let them know who sent you. They ship all over the continental U.S. Every Wednesday night, we go live on the West Show. Me, TJ, and Flea. It's about 9:15, 9:30. Tap in on my social media platforms. I got a Patreon account. You can sign up over there for free. Challz Brown Patreon. Over 200 members already. Lock in, get in there, and become part of the fam. And last but not least, Peanut Butter Tim's. That is the new music video off of the What Project with me, TJ, and Flea. We rapping on there. Getting my videos, search for Peanut Butter Tim's, watch the video, get in the comments, let me know what you think. You can even share the shit if you want. I just dropped my first interview, Challz's legendary interviews. I just dropped that yesterday. It's featuring TJ Source. It is a very good interview, a very good watch. You should tap in. Make sure you get in the comments and show the boy some love, all right? Listen, I am out of here. I'm going to catch y'all on that flip side. Peace.
Look, mission impossible to drop a few lines without dropping old times when Southern Hill was still a gold mine. When pistol grips was my shit and I sold mine. When Alias was not a show and they told mine. Elevate your mind with high quality THC infused products. BlackYeti.com. Black-Yeti.com.
CLB.
Get my coat, get my sheepskin, grab my wallet, get my pocket knife, and get that hat right there. We out. Grab my pocket knife too. Let's go. When I first came to the city, niggas didn't believe me. I just wanted to join a team and throw assist pass easily. 6 man off the bench, alley-oop pass freely. Suit up for one game and hope a scout might see me. But nah, niggas is greedy, wasn't rocking with him. Unplugged the scoreboard, put a lock on the gym. Told me to power forward, point guard at the rim. And left me with no center and a ball full of phlegm. Not knowing that I'm a dog, a Rottweiler within, with the heart of a pit bull that don't bark for pretend. My bites cut deep, break the bone and the skin, with the level of hustlenomics you do not comprehend. So first I took a block down on the west side end, and then secured a spot with some goons and some kin, and then sent out some flyers, let the games begin. And in 6 months time, the city like that's him. Oh yeah, he the one that moved the hustle to the burbs. And yeah, he the one that knocked the hustlers off the curb. And yeah, he the one that set up shop without a word. And he the one that got it cracking, and all he did was rapping by the Hooters. I kept killers from being shooters. Put a mic in a thug's hand, now he loyal like Pats fans. Take a man off the streets past the needles and crack cans. Promise mama to keep him safe, then put some food in his face, and he'll kill for you. But I don't need him for that. Click like, click share, tell them bitches we back. Share the whole location, tell them niggas where we at. Cause we out here and we ain't the cheese, we the trap.